Slowly start. I see that an enormous amount of people have logged in. That is very nice. I'm going to start with a small introduction, and then we move as quickly as possible over to the presentations of Dr. Widget. This is a HOLISAN lecture with an KNTO accreditation for the people who need to know that. Should we simply wait for a vaccine and in the meantime act with whatever we have? And what can we do in the meantime? And are we allowed to do anything? So legal issues definitely play a role in this whole. And also a second question is, should we differentiate more clearly? As Ayurveda is always contextual and hardly ever absolute in its practical application. And where can we, as an Ayurveda community, safely start with working in this field? So important fields to discuss and develop for this afternoon are pre and peri-COVID-19 issues, supporting health and immunity. It's basically what everyone says about, can we have a stronger immune system? Can we do things for that? And of course, Ayurveda has very clear things on that because that's main part of Ayurveda. Secondly is direct COVID-19 issues, analyzing pathological processes, trying to understand the disease in a deeper way. Number 3, post-COVID-19 issues, supporting recovery and rehabilitation, what to do after people have recovered partly from the direct infection. And then 4th point is working with task groups. Can we cooperate together on collecting information and put that into action? I would like to wish you a good afternoon and enjoy the presentations. We start with Dr. Widget.
Namaste again. The main focus, as Kun has said in the introduction, my contribution to this whole lecture is giving a view, understanding about how Ayurveda approaches and understands this pandemic, and also the microbiology in Ayurvedic literature. Pandemic and microbiology, as explained in Ayurvedic treatises, is the topic. So what is the basic cause of this destruction of a massive population? And Atreya undoubtedly say, Tasya Moolam Adharmam. Immoral way of life is the root cause of anything like this. So that also brings an answer to the problem that re-establishing the dharma both in our physical existence, how we handle our physical body and the global body, how we handle our mind and the global mind, how we handle our spirit and the global spirit. So how to establish dharma is all about the first remedy. And the second question Agnivesha asked Atreya is that how come people of various constitutions, various races, various age groups, various genders, and having various lifestyle and food, because all these things are explained as the causative factors of diseases, but how come all of them are affected by the same disease? Beautifully, Atreya explains, or disciple, you understand that we all share 4 factors. Everybody, every constitution, every age group, every race, we share something in this atmosphere. What is that? The first thing is air. So imbalance of air. Air as an element, where there is a air molecular imbalances, pollution, and also infections that are airborne. So that because when we share air, irrespective of your constitution, when air has a problem, people will be affected by the problem. Second cause, he says, is jaladushti, is water imbalance. Again, it is applicable as pollutions, even toxins or pathogens like microbes present in water element, which is consumed commonly to drink and for various uses, to wash. And so waterborne diseases is the second cause, he is saying. And the third cause is desha, or the place or the land, imbalance of the bhumi, which especially leads to excessive proliferation of vectors like mosquitoes, rodents like rats and various wild animals like bat. We know the story of bat. So when the desha is imbalanced, it gives rise to presence of more and more vectors and these wild animals coming close to human populations. That's also the third cause. And the fourth cause is imbalance of kala, imbalance of the seasons, the seasonal imbalances, which again is prevalent and very relevant in this context, like the global warming and the climate change globally, and either extreme rain or floods or no rain and drought, extreme hot summers, extreme hot cold winters, and imbalances and improper placing of seasons is also another thing when all people are exposed to, and which also leads to mutation of various microorganisms, especially in the viruses. So basically he says these first four common substances that is shared by populations, and later he also explains about Shastra Prabhavaha Janapadodhamsaha. That Shastra here means sharp weapons or wars. This is also one possibility the whole world is discussing about COVID-19, that even there's a possibility that it's a bioweapon. So even in the past, even the other world wars, we have seen how it has massively destroyed human population in different countries. So war is another possibility. And finally, he comes to the sixth possibility of Rakshoganaha, Bhuda Sanghadaha. So microorganisms or organisms that are microscopic, which cannot be directly seen, which can be pathogenic, that afflicting human populations and invading various systems of human body. So these are four causative factors explained in the context of Janapadodhamsaniyam. All of them are relevant. We know that extreme air pollutions, water pollutions, even in seawater pollution, all these, every single topic is relevant today in this COVID-19 scenario. And I think the world, the Pura Rupa, even Atreya Maharshi starts by saying that you look that the stars, the planets, the horizons, the wind, the moon, the sun, all these outside universe is showing some dangerous signs. So there is a probable destruction going to happen. So you start collecting herbs before their media or potency is being affected. So if you really look back to what was happening in the previous years, even to Kerala, we had been facing severe floods across the globe. So there have been the Purva Rupas. These are the Purva Rupas of these pandemics or epidemics, that frequent calamities, natural calamities, earthquakes, storms, cyclones. So these are the Purva Rupas of a forthcoming natural pandemic or an epidemic, which is also prevalent. Even various birds dying, monkeys and animals dying, honeybees dying collectively. These were all the Purva Rupas showing up this possibility, which was all present just before this pandemic as well. The protocol explained by Janapadodhamsa is the best. It's amazing how 7 steps has been explained. The first step is Panchakarma itself. I know, like you cannot do a big Panchakarma at your home when you're locked down, but you can go for a Virechana. You can go for a mild Virechana according to your constitution, according to your bowel nature. You can go for a purification with either Triphala, or you can use Avipatti Karachurnam, or you can use castor oil. So you can use according, for example, Vata people might use castor oil in milk base or with Arishtas and Asavas. And accordingly, you can select a formulation. The first step is purifying your body, especially only when excessive malas accumulate in your body, excessive waste products and doshas accumulate in your body, ama accumulate in your body, liquidity accumulate in your body, mild purgations with appropriate formulation is the first step. And the second step is Rasayana Prayogaha, which is rejuvenative medications. Especially the protocol is using formulations or herbs, single herbs, like you can use Pippali Rasayanam, you can use Amalaki for Rasayana, you can use Guduchi for Rasayana, You can even use garlic, especially garlic which is cleaned, its root being removed, also the inner stem which is inside is also removed, dried, and used boiled with milk, one small piece of it as a rasayana. So the rasayanas, I will tell you, which have properties of antipyretic property, Jwaragna property, rasayanas which has Krimigna property, destroying parasites and infections, that is Krimigna property. The third thing is the rasayanas which has Vishagna property, detoxifying property. So these kinds of rasayana herbs which is available can be used when you are in lockdown. Especially we can use a Vardhamana dose, starting from a small dose and slowly increasing the dose and coming to the peak by the 10th day, staying there for another 2-3 days and then slowly waning out. So this is slowly habituating a body with the rasayana and keeping a special diet with very light and a simple diet after this medicine is digested. This is definitely going to bring up your immunity and bring up your dhatu bala, the strength of the channels and strength of the tissues and agni. Next, third step is sadvritam, good of contact. There are so many researchers speaking about how when you behave, speak, think positively, constructively, how that improves your immunity. Then very interestingly, as the fourth step, Charaka Samhita around 3000 years ago has suggested Gupti Atmanaha, conceal yourself, because the air is polluted, the water is polluted, even the food is polluted. So you try to, the first reference of lockdown is in Charaka Samhita. You conceal yourself. Gupti means hide yourself and minimize the exposure to the environmental factors is the fourth criteria. So we will see that it is not only in this context that it is protecting you, but also it minimizes the pollution. We see how the atmosphere is getting smoke free. We see the Ganges, the river, the biggest big river, Ganges, which is extremely polluted by various industries and human beings, has turned to be drinkable water by these 2 months. So the lockdown also in this time helps not only to protect you from this exposure, but also to let this world environment heal and purify and get vitalized. And the fifth factor is Devata Archana, means worshipping gods and cosmic powers. Again, I need not explain that how it builds up your spiritual strength, your mental strength, and also physical strength. Brahmacharya is advised, which is abstinence not only from sex, but also from various substances like alcohol, drugs, and anything which is influencing your mind and spirit. And finally, Satsanga is advised, staying in close contact with physically or reading spiritually evolved peoples and serving them and being involved in those kinds of activities. So this protocol is a beautiful protocol for people who are staying at home without contact and who are asymptomatic. So for asymptomatic, unexposed people, the approach of Ayurveda is Janabada Udhamsana. So now the question is, have Ayurveda understood microbiome and microorganisms as pathogens in Ayurveda? Is this next question that we are going to address, which is applicable for people who are getting exposed or who have to go out and take the risk of getting a contact. This question is important. Is there, did Ayurveda understand microbiome, and is there any treatment possible for these microbiomes? Yes. The first reference, I have already mentioned that Ayurveda has used the word Raksha or Bhuta to explain microorganisms, especially in the context of post-surgical care, wound care, etc. But in Charaka Samhita, Charaka explains the word krimi to explain how you can understand microorganisms. Let us look at the definition of the word krimi. Kramu pada vikshepe idi krimihi is the definition, Sanskrit definition. The word krimi is originated from the root kramu, which has two meanings. The first meaning is pada. Pada means to move and walk. So it shows they are organisms which are able to move within various organs and systems of human body within the host. And second word is vikshepa, means to project out, which means which has the capability of communicability and infecting other people. So in short, by the definition, krimis are organisms which when enters into human body can move around within the body and also get transmitted from one person to other. So including parasites, worms, microbiomes, there are many range on many types of krimis has been explained. In the very introduction, the outset itself, Charaka Samhita explains in the chapter of krimi that there are 20 types of krimis which are pathogenic, but the main interesting point is that he says anyatra sahajebhya. So they are different from the sahaja krimis, a beautiful concept explained by Charaka Samhita. Sahaja krimi means the krimis that are born with you, which is nothing but your microbiome, which even you start acquiring from the amniotic fluid, from your umbilical cord, from the birth canal itself, that you start assimilating microorganisms into the body. Definitely there it is not a worm or a parasite that Charaka is speaking about. Charaka is speaking about the microorganisms, which is part of your microbiome in that context. Thus, krimi, the word represents clearly also microorganisms, and krimis has been classified into 4 types predominantly. And when we study, the first type is called malaja krimi. So especially there are various malas that comes out of your body. For example, even mucus is a mala. There are sebum, sweat, and various malas that comes out of your body. And the main role why physiological and pathological krimis come to you, infectious agents comes to you, is just to eat and live on these. It's a symbiotic relationship, especially when it comes to microbiome. So the point is, if there are more krimis, there is more malas, there are more krimis, and if your malas has abnormal molecules, it also invites pathological krimis and microorganisms into your body. So the second type is specifically Shleshmaja krimis. Shleshma is nothing but the mucus and the kapha that is being secreted from your respiratory tract and also from your digestive tract. So this is specifically speaking about the krimis, what we are speaking now about, which I'll come to that. And the Raktaja krimi is the krimis especially that are responsible for various skin diseases, including leprosy, and which affects impure blood. And Purishja krimis are that affects the feces, which is, of course, it's pinworms and various kinds of parasites and hookworms and various kinds of worms and parasites explained there. So the point what I want to make is that from this is that the krimis, why they come to you body, why a microorganism come to you is when the malas and unwanted substances, morbid substances increases in your body. That also leaves an answer. You reduce the malas, you take out, if you do purification, this is the first prevention, which is known as Prakriti Vighata, destroying the environment, Prakriti, the environment which is accessible to, which makes your body accessible to the organism. So the main 3 treatment principle of krimi, according to Ayurveda, is Nidana Parivardhana, that is avoiding the cause. Of course, in this case, it is the contact, but also certain food substances like cold food or oily food, yogurt, sweet sugars. So these kinds of substances are specifically told to be associated with producing a lot of malas in the body and inviting various infections in your body. And yogurt is specifically mentioned in context. Now, Sushruta Samhila very clearly explains the signs of Sanjata Krimi Lakshana. What are the signs which you produce when your body is infected by various krimis, which is very similar to signs of infection, and that too that is very interestingly resembling to the COVID infection signs. Jwara, which is fever, Vivarnada, discoloration of the affected area or inflamed appearance of the affected area, here the nasal mucosa and the oropharynx. Shulam, pain, especially now sore throat or pain in the throat. Hridroga, even we know that this infection also affects the heart. And Sadanam, fatigue, we know that fatigue is one of the major signs of COVID infection. Brahma, vertigo, we know that it affects central nervous system. Bhakta Dvesho, this is anorexia. Atisara, diarrhea. Diarrhea is also, which is GI symptoms are also very much seen in the case of COVID infection. So the common signs and symptoms explained by Sushruta Samhita for infection or infestation itself explains many of the signs and symptoms of COVID, and the approach to people who are having the high risk of exposure to coronavirus, novel coronavirus, is the treatment protocol of Krimi. And here is a beautiful reference from Sushruta Samhita, who says, the Krimis that affect your head, heart, ear, eyes. So this is the main route through which, eyes, nose, mouth this is the main route through which the COVID goes in. And these are the main areas where it is going to get affected. And especially the areas, ACE2 receptors are specifically the target of this COVID coronavirus, which goes and have a protein binding there. So these ACE receptors are abundantly seen in these areas. So now, for Krimis which affects these areas, he gives a beautiful treatment protocol. What is it? Anjana, application of collyrium. So when you go out and come back, and if you suspect, even if you don't suspect a contact, do an Anjana. So here in Kerala, we use a formulation called Ilanir Kuramba, which is not available there. But I think Himalaya has a product called Kajal. You try to note down that Kajal, a product by Himalaya, which can be applied to the eye. Even before you go out, it can be applied also. After you come back also, you can just rinse your eyes with some clear distilled water and then apply the Anjana. Then Nasya. Nasya is the second route. And here it's very important again that it is to the nose, especially the global cells and also the ACE2 receptors area, celial cells. These are the two epithelial cells specifically where the coronavirus is going to get into and where it goes through the first cycle before it get into the lytic cycle. So it is where it will be stored for at least 1 to 2 days. So even if it enters into this area, so doing a Nasya, especially we are doing a research on this, but on this contest, plainly I tell you, just lemon juice mixed with rock salt. Just make it lukewarm and rinse your nose with this solution. This is definitely going to help you to kill the viruses, and also this is also going to make the receptors receptive to this binding of the viruses. We are doing a study about it, which will be published soon about it. So another thing, as Kun was rightly mentioning, doing Nasya, Anutaila Nasya, there's also a study that if you have oil coating in the nasal passage, this will not allow, the virus to bind to the protein, the receptors. So before you go, every day regularly doing Anjana, Nasya, and Gandusha. For Gandusha, the simple remedy is just crush a small piece of ginger, extract the juice, take around 5 ml of the juice, add around 30 ml of hot water, put some salt into it, use it for gargling the throat very well. So even if there is an infection, which you get acutely, it will kill and it will clear the whole mucosa, and it also bleaches the mucosa, which makes it non-receptive to the organism. Also, the tooth powder that Ayurveda proposes, like using Trikatu, Tribhala, Trijataka, and using Yashti Mathu, which is, if you use, especially after coming back from outside, just brush with your teeth and gums with this, and also gargle your mouth with this powder. This will also completely disinfect. They're also strongly having an antiviral property and also cleansing property. So this is an approach. So you can elaborate this like the Krimikna approach, especially for people with exposure. This is especially for people who have exposed but who have not got positive and who have not got any symptoms. As early as possible, you do this. It is definitely is going to be help for sure. And now, did Ayurveda understand about the communicability of a disease, that it can be contagious from person to person? Interestingly, yes. That too, Sushruta Samhita, in the chapter of Kushta Chikitsa, leprosy explains, because leprosy very clearly explains the presence of a microorganism in the pathology, destroying various tissues of the body, including the tendon bones or cartilages. And there, by the end of the chapter, very clearly the text explains that repeated contacts, prasangad, through gatra samsparsha, by touching the body, nishwasa, through breath or through the droplets, sahabhojana, eating from the same plate, sahashaya and asana, sleeping and sitting together, again, suggestive of social distance, importance of distancing, being too closer, it can also be, even if without physical touch, can be contagious. And then vastra malya anulepada, it means sharing cloths, sharing jewels and garlands, sharing creams and scents and things that you apply. So through these modes, you can transmit the diseases, and especially more repeated contacts. The more exposure, the more contact, the more possibility of communicability. And interestingly, even the diseases being listed there, Kushta, which is leprosy, Jwara, fever, the flus, including what we are expressing now, Shosha, which was tuberculosis, Netrabhishinda, conjunctivitis, Sheetaleka, chickenpox, and Masurika, smallpox. So even various communicable diseases are also very scientifically listed here. So the communicability of the diseases and the understanding of the microorganisms, these concepts are not foreign to Ayurvedic literature and Ayurvedic practices. Now, another context. So this is where we have to take the Krimi context. And again, coming to another context is about Vishakrimi and Visha, the concept of toxicity explained in context, especially the zoonotically transmitted infections like a rabid dog bite or a rabid cat bite or bite by a rat, which can cause leptospirosis, or these kinds of infections were also classified under Visha Chikitsa or toxicology in Ayurveda. So that means once it invades and starts spreading in the body, it can also produce Visha kinds of signs and symptoms. So I'm just reflecting on the fact that a rabid virus rabies is caused by a virus, which we have a vaccine now, but still, even my guru was a toxicologist who has treated more than 500 cases of rabid bites without any symptoms. So Ayurveda has very promising herbs. They even use simple herbs like kurkuma, which is antiviral, which is antitoxic, which is krimigna. So it fulfills all these things. So tulasi or basil, Indian basil, is another beautiful remedy for this, which also works very well in respiratory symptoms. Neem leaves or neem bark is another simple remedy which works against the Visha and at the same time against the Krimi. So usage of these herbs as teas regularly, especially for people who are exposed to the virus and also who are in the mild stage of the disease, is also definitely advisable. Now, we have already come across the first sign of infection or the Krimis entering your body was Jwara. And once the disease starts manifesting in the mild stage to moderate stage, it manifests as Jwara. And almost all of these serious infectious diseases are classified into Agantu Jwara. Before that, you have to just remember that Jwara is the basic systemic response of the body. Whenever something bad, it can be a microorganism, it can be a food, it can be even a chemical that is entering in your body. Systemically, the first response of human body through Rasadhatu is to increase the temperature and burn it and destroy it. So Jwara is the basic systemic response of human body, whereas Shobha or inflammation is the basic local response of human body, vertebrates. So these two diseases we have to take remedies from. You have to take locally, you have to handle Shobha and inflammation in the, especially in the respiratory tract and in the digestive tract. And also systemically, we have to take the principle of Jwara in mild to moderate conditions. So the types of fever, of course, there are 8 types of fever, which can be broadly again classified into Nija types, the fever that originates because of internal causes, because of humoral reasons. And the second type is Agantu Jwara, where the fever is caused by an external affliction. There is a type, it's further classified into 4, where the second type is Abhishangaja Jwara, where an external pathogen or external agent or an allergen comes in and produce Jwara. It is where we classify this infectious fevers. And most of these Agantu Jwaras, according to the Sangrahas, expresses Sannipada Jwara Lakshana. Most of the infectious fevers, even dengue fever, even malaria, even poliomyelitis, even so the serious flus, they all, even Nipah, they all presented with Sannipada Jwara Lakshanas. Have just classified the whole Sannipada Jwara Lakshanas from all three Brahatrayis, which is around 40 signs and symptoms. And you can see most of it is affecting your nervous system, and that's where maximum number of symptoms expresses. You also know that, even loss of taste sensation, loss of smell sensation, even delirium, confusion, even coma, all these possibilities are also there in various stages of Sannipada Jwara. Of course, there are also respiratory symptoms like even hemoptysis or cough or breathlessness. All these symptoms, you can see this symptoms you can just compare with the common symptoms of COVID, like fever, cough. Almost all these symptoms, what you see in this slide, you can go back and almost see in the other side, including mental confusions and psychosis is being explained under that infection. So we know that we cannot just fix this presentation to one presentation, because we know from asymptomatic infected people to critically severe cases, this Jwara has a big spectrum of expressions. So we cannot fix this, which Jwara you cannot prefix. You have to see what is the response. The cause is this Agantu, what you call as a Vishakrami or a Buddha that goes and invades into your system. And your response depends on various factors, which is mostly the host factors and your bala, your strength. So this is about the fever, and the people especially affected by mild to moderate signs should be treated with the principles of fever. And you can see later severe symptoms grow. The main symptom is breathlessness, a shortness of breath, and there it's going towards Shwasa, Kasa, and later stage, seriously critically affected cases, we have to consider it as Kshatraja Kasa, which explains injury to the lung tissue, the alveoli, and serious damage and scarring and effusions and clots and various pathologies, even bleeding, hemoptysis. So the severe condition can be understood as Kshatraja Kasa, Shwasa, and mild to moderate conditions of COVID can be understood with the understanding of a fever. And when we study the Agantu Jwara, the Sannipada Jwara, they also speak about there is a tendency of Vishama Jwara, that means the intermittent fever according to where the doshas go. So there is a possibility, especially that in Agantu Jwara, especially in the Sannipada Jwara, the burning process can start doing the Dhatu-paka, can start burning the tissues and get deeper and deeper. So we can see when it goes to blood, it starts producing clots, it starts producing skin symptoms. That's when the fatality starts. Then you can see in Charaka Samhita, the fever going to mom side produces chills and even severe body pain and sweating, etc. when it goes to Medas. And so then it goes to Asti, then people starts having severe asthma and respiratory problems. So it gets further and further deeper through the dhatus as it progresses. So when Dhatu-paka happens instead of the Mala-paka, so the malas which is accumulated in the body, which was tried by the body to burn off, instead of that, because of various reasons, it can be host reasons, even it can be iatrogenic causes, which induces more burning of the dhatus than the imbalancing malas, then that is when we see that the people goes to more critical symptoms. So I'm not going to deal that part because probably that's not within the scope of Ayurvedic treatment. And another very important area is, how to come back from the treatment, like when to understand that a person has recovered completely from this infection, or Vigata Jwara Lakshana, and when can the person start taking normal food and come back to normal regimen is a very important thing, because we see even that people who recovered from COVID-19 get sometimes very severe diseases like heart attacks or stroke or something, or they even have a possibility of a reinfection, which is called as a punaravartaka jwara. Which is also explained. The cause is not following the diet and lifestyle prescribed for fever until these signs and symptoms are shown. So this is very important. It's not just the temperature coming down, the lightness of the body, and it's not only the temperature but also the exhaustion and the confusion of the mind. The mind also becomes very clear. And pako mukhe, the mouth becomes clear, and also there's like stomatitis or ulceration produced. Karana saushthavam, the senses and the motor functions become very crisp and very clear. And avyathatvam, recovery from all the symptoms, not only the temperature, even GI symptoms and myalgia, fatigue, everything should disappear. And sweda kshava, and the sweating comes back, and also normal reflexes like sneezing, etc. also comes back. Then prakriti yogi mana, normalcy of mind, annalipsa, desire for food, kanduja murdhini, and itching of the scalps. So these are maybe a good checklist to keep, even to give, as we have been discussing, especially to focus on post-COVID people. So, they should be observed. Now in India, they say they should be, after becoming negative, should be observed for 14 days. We see that 14 days is not just enough. It's quite variant for different people. And also until they develop these signs and symptoms, there should be given specific diet, especially in terms of rice gruels like rice soup or mung bean soup or radish soup, meat soup of light meat like chicken or birds, etc. is being explained. Rabbit meat is being explained. So giving slight nourishing, but at the same time, soups and more liquid semi-solid food is being explained there. And when at that stage, what you can do is also the Jirna Jura Chikitsa, which is like giving again Rasona Kshirapaga, which is giving milk boiled with dried and purified garlic, if the patient, the constitution and the symptoms were more vata and kapha in nature, and or pipali, it can be pipali Kshirapaga can be given at that time. And even slowly, when the digestion becomes better, we can start using even ghees, various ghee preparations. Tiktagam Ghridam is explained. Vasa Ghridam is explained. So these Ghridas, Kandhagari Adi Ghrida is explained. So whatever ghee formulations are available there, which is good for, again, respiratory system, we can start giving at this time. And another important thing is the fumigation, especially after recovery, and also people who are living in the house not to be affected, to reduce the viral load. This is again a formulation where studies has been done which can reduce viral load in various coronaviruses. The name of the formulation is Aparajita Dhuma. The herbs available can be used for fumigation. Gugulu is something. I think Dhyama is not available. Calamus root is available. Gum of Shoria robusta is available. Neem bark is available. Calotropis arca is probably available there. Even cedar wood is available there. So even bamboo's skin or rind of bamboo stem is good to be fumigated. So from these, whatever herbs are available, to keep on fumigating, especially in the morning and evening, the sunrise time and sunset time, where the viral load increases, to fumigate within the rooms and also around the premises of home, which will also reduce the viral load, especially when you treat and people at home, like home isolated people who have also recovered from the fever. This is a good practice to do to avoid reinfections and also infection to other people. Another important thing is what is advised to be avoided in case of fever. One thing is vyayama, which is exercise. Snana, shower, especially showering your hair and head, is very bad for people who have especially respiratory infections. Maithuna, sexual contact. Guru asatmya bhodana, heavy food which is unaccustomed by them, and also vidahiyana, very acidic food. So these kinds of things are specifically contraindicated for people who are having fever, and this has to be observed until people come out of the infection, become negative, and also produce the previously mentioned symptoms. Now, the last thing is about the diet after fever is very, very important, that there should be the chance of reinfections and also the chances of having various blood pathologies and vascular pathologies, as we say, can be reduced. And finally, the last thing I want to share is this slide, which says wearing sacred herbs like especially basil, vacha, and those kinds of herbs, wearing gems and chanting mantras and worshipping saints, Brahmins, gods, irrespective of what caste or what religion. And especially, as Kun was rightly mentioning, even all factors that induce pleasure, Pritikara manaso vishayascha, anything which increases, especially can be music, it can be listening, drawing. So you make sure that the things that you listen to through various senses is going to be pleasing to you. This is the last sutra from the chapter of Jwara, that even the fever caused by the curse of Lord Vishnu can be cured through this, these remedies. So this is the worst that we can think about COVID-19, that it was a curse from some spirits or from the whole universe, that human beings were not going in the right direction. So hope this I was trying to put few concepts in place, like starting from Janavadodhamsa, Krimi, Visha, Jwara, Kasa, Shwasa, especially coming towards the Kshatraja Kasa. So this is the spectrum of understanding COVID-19 in various conditions. And thank you for listening. I think